So here's a useful survey. Rasmussen reports that they did this survey, a poll of Democratic voters and their support for harsh measures against the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
And, well, I wonder how that turned out. Let's see how that turns out. While many voters have become skeptical toward the federal government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, a majority of Democrats embrace restrictive policies, including punitive measures against those who haven't gotten the COVID-19 vaccine. Wow. Poof. By the way, I'm shocked by this because I am genuinely surprised because, as we all know, Democrats are the compassionate right side of history people. I find it hard to believe that the people who start all their tweets with y'all don't have more folksy companions. Compassion. Sorry. Hey, here's Alex Rubinstein tweeting out the results of this poll. He says, insane survey of Democratic voters in a recent poll. 55% support fines against the unvaxxed. Wow. 55% support fines against the unvaxxed. 59% support house arrest. 48% support prison for questioning vax efficacy on social media. Hey, if you can't do the time, don't do your own research. Isn't that how that saying goes? 45% support internment camps.
Jeez, this is awful.
47% support surveillance, and 29% support the state taking their kids. If you're part of that 29% who support the state taking their kids, I think you should have your kids taken away. How about that? That's like our little test. We tricked you. You wanted to take someone else's kids away? They're going to take yours. That's our little trick. We got you. We outed you.
How much you want to bet that the 45% who support internment camps, that includes Mr. Sulu from Star Trek?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. So what do you do with the children that you take away from their parents? What do we do with those children? Do we put them in compassion camps? A new Heartland Institute and Rasmussen Reports National Telephone and online survey finds that 48% of voters favor President Joe Biden's plan to impose a COVID-19 vaccine mandate on the employees of large companies and government agencies. While 78% of Democratic voters support the Biden administration's COVID-19 vaccine mandate plan, only 22% of Republicans and 41% of voters not affiliated with either major party support the vaccine mandate. And many Democrats would support even harsher measures, including fines for Americans who don't get the COVID-19 vaccine and criminal punishment for vaccine critics. Holy shit. Well, the CEO of Pfizer once said they aren't bad people, but they are criminals. So remember when he said that? That was hilarious. Let's see. Among other findings of the survey, 58% of voters would oppose a proposal for federal or state governments to fine Americans who choose not to get a COVID-19 vaccine. However, 55% of Democratic voters would support such a proposal compared to just 19% of Republicans and 25% of unaffiliated voters. Wow. So those numbers don't seem to add up. Oh, no, they do. 58% of all voters would oppose a proposal for federal or state governments to fine, but 55% of Democrats actually would support it. Oh, okay, that's what that means. Wow, so Democrats are way out in the lead in being for all this authoritarian shit. Oh. People always ask me, hey, Jimmy, why don't you spend more time criticizing Republicans? Well, because a majority of Democrats, the Democrat Good Guy Party, they now support concentration camps. That might be one reason. I feel like that, that's a major issue that maybe I should talk about. That the majority of Democrats, I guess you can't enjoy the vaccine and all the goodness it brings you unless you know someone else is in vaccine hell. Is someone else in prison? Okay, then I can enjoy my vaccine. That's what it sounds like. 59% of Democratic voters would favor a government policy requiring that citizens remain confined to their homes at all times.
Wrong with these people?
If they refuse to get the vaccine. Such proposal is opposed by 61% of all voters, including, well, who needs internment camps if you could just turn your house into an internment camp, right?
Yeah, right.
And 71% of all unaffiliated. So if you're an independent voter, 7 out of 10 independent voters are against any of this shit, whereas 6 out of 10 Democrats are for it. And you wonder why I criticize a Democrat? You wonder why I won't call myself a fucking Democrat? Because it's a cult. Nearly half, 48% of Democratic voters think federal and state governments should be able to fine or imprison individuals who publicly question the efficacy of the existing COVID-19 vaccines on social media. That should give you a chill, Brian Williams. The darkness on the edge of town is now right in the middle of everyone's fucking head. There's no outside threat to America. The call's coming from inside the house. This is not Russia.
It's not Australia.
No. Including, so only 27% of all voters feel that way, including just 14% of Republicans and 18% of unaffiliated voters. So So almost half of Democrats favor a fine or imprison of people who are unvaccinated, whereas if you're an independent, not even 2 out of 10 feel that way. Go ahead.
I'll
Kurt.
bet you that 14% of Republicans that supports that, how much you want to bet Trump is one of those Republicans?
Yeah. Isn't that funny? That would be funny.
How weird. My body, my choice. Do they not have any awareness of that in the Democratic Party? My body, my choice. But when it comes to vaccines and my neighbor, that is so nefarious and so scary. I can't even believe it. I can't believe that. This is horrifying.
So you have to stay confined to your home at all times. Maybe that doesn't go far enough. Maybe the unvaxxed should lose their homes. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. That's just a suggestion from a fully vaccinated progressive. That's right. I'm afraid to know how Democrats feel about the questions Rasmussen didn't ask them. Should the unvaxxed be shot in the back of the head and then their family receive a bill for the bullets? I would like to know. I would like to know what percentage of Democratic voters agree with that.
48% said yes.
Hey, Democrats, would you support harvesting the organs of the unvaxxed to be transplanted into the bodies of fully vaccinated Democrats? Hey, what about waterboarding them? That sounds like it would nudge them toward a vaccine. How many support that? Well, if it's for the good, I guess we should waterboard them. I mean, if it works, it works. I mean, if it works, it works. Wow, Democrats hate the unvaccinated. 45% of Democrats would favor governments requiring citizens to temporarily live in designated facilities or locations if they refuse to get a COVID-19 vaccine. Such a policy would be opposed by a strong majority of all voters, with 78% of Republicans and 64% of unaffiliated voters saying they would strongly oppose putting the unvaccinated in designated facilities. Well, ask FDR how he feels about it. While about 2/3, 66% of likely voters would be against governments using digital devices to track unvaccinated people to ensure that they are quarantined or socially distancing from others, 47% of Democrats favor government tracking programs for those who won't get the COVID-19 vaccine. Wow. How far are Democrats willing to go in punishing the unvaccinated? 29% of Democrat voters would support temporarily removing parents' custody of their children if parents refuse to take the vaccine. That's much more than twice the level of support in the rest of the electorate. 7% of Republicans and only 11% of independent voters for such a policy. Look at that.
Well, they're going to have to clear out the kids in the cages to make room for the citizens who need to be caged.
That's a good point, Kurt. Among voters who have a very favorable impression of Biden,
Oh, my God.
51% are in favor of government putting the unvaccinated in designated facilities, and 54% favor imposing fines or prison sentences on the vaccine critics. By contrast, among voters who have a very unfavorable view of Biden, 95% are against designated facilities for the unvaccinated, and 93 are against criminal punishment for vaccine critics. So, wow, it's quite a swing. And I just want to remind people, it's hard to process what's actually happening right now, but which is most people are going to get COVID. Who said that? The director of the FDA said that.
Well, she's going to jail.
See, she should go to jail. She should go to jail for that. Guys, you know who else said this? Fauci said it. Virus may infect most. So the vaccines aren't going to stop you from getting it. They say it reduces your chances of getting it, but now the head of the FDA says, doesn't matter. Most people are going to get COVID anyway. And this guy says it too. And so what? Why would you want to punish people who aren't vaccinated if you're going to get it anyway?
Well, I got really invested in hating them, and I don't really want to let it go.
Yeah, that's basically it. People are invested in hating and blaming a scapegoat called the unvaccinated for a virus that everyone's going to eventually get the vaccine isn't going to stop you from getting COVID-19. Now, they say it reduces your chances of getting it, but the FDA director is saying you're going to get it. Right? That most people are going to get it. That's what Fauci's saying too.
Jimmy, how hilarious would it be if Trump got back in and enacted all these things that Democrats want against the unvaccinated? Like, they wouldn't know how to feel.
Wow.
Well, the Democrats would then call it authoritarian fascism, and they'd be against it because that's how their brain works. So,
what if he transitioned?
So why? Yeah, I know. Why would you be still hating on the unvaccinated if you knew this? So you're gonna, most people are gonna get it. Who do you care who you get it from? You're gonna get it from a vaccinated person because they can also transmit the virus when they have it, just like an unvaccinated person can transmit the virus when they have it.
I think we should err on the side of taking their children away.
So me too. But they say, well, since you're less likely to contract the virus if you're vaccinated, then that makes you less likely to spread it. But then they say this, but most people are going to get it freaking anyway. So I'm getting mixed messages. Once again, from the FDA, the CDC, and Fauci. These people don't know their I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. Do I have the free speech to say they're a bunch of assholes who don't know their asshole from a hole in the ground? Because that's what it seems like. That's what it seems like to a pothead comedian.
Oh, I was going to cut tomatoes out of my diet. I got a totally different.
Yeah. We added a second show, January 26th in Raleigh, and we're going to be in Philadelphia on February 20th. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all our tickets. And while you're there, become a premium member. Get access to all our premium videos.